Do you ever struggle with comparison?
No, I used to. Haven't for donkey's years. Um, so being a fat kid, seeing guys in great shape at school, at college. I remember there was a group of lads at my college actually who did a little bit of lifting, had good chest and arms and things, and I thought that they were like literally the reincarnation of Adonis. Um, as I've grown older and wiser, I realised that actually they weren't. But hey, when you're a little fat kid with moobs and flabby arms and just generally not looking great, you look up to people like that and you think it's incredible. Um, and I did struggle with it a lot in my early 20s, certainly at university still, because again, my starting point was so low. Um, I really struggled to make any progress in those early days. I'm reminded of when I got to uni, I started training with a lad that I lived with who was very sporty as a teenager, but he'd never lifted weights before. And I remember I was really proud of my 100 kilo for five front squat that I'd just cracked about 2 months before I arrived at uni. This guy, within 6 weeks of training, was front squatting 110, then 120, then 130 for sets of five easily. Just it was like the guy. It was almost like he was made of springs. His muscles were made of springs. It was incredible to watch, all because of his very athletic upbringing. So that was difficult, and seeing that, I was also fairly ignorant to what was and wasn't possible with um, without the aid of steroids. That was a thing because obviously they're illegal drugs, so people don't talk about their use openly until you get to know them really well. So I'd see guys start at the gym and then just rocket past me again, and now I know because I think back and I look at I recall what they look like, and it's highly probable that they were using illicit substances to get those results. But at the time, as I say, it was really hard, and it's only been as I've gotten older and more settled in my own sense of self worth that I don't care so much about what other people are doing. In fact, I don't care at all about what other people are doing. If someone does better than me in the gym and they got better body than me or whatever, I think it's pretty cool. Um, Contrary to what you might believe about me, I don't particularly care if people take steroids or not. I think they're vain and stupid and lazy for sure, but if I see a body, I don't care. It's well, he's taking steroids, blah 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 blah. I actually look at it as a target and think, oh yeah, cool. Well, that's possible for a human to do, so I'm just going to aim and shoot towards that. And hey, if I don't quite get there because he's on gear and I'm not, well, what doesn't matter because I'm still going to be better than I am right now. It's a much better way of approaching these things than being overly negative.
In business.
Business. Oh, again, yeah, struggled with it in the early days massively. Well, you know that.
Yeah.
I thought all of my problems were going to be solved when I hit a certain monthly revenue figure, which we did hit. And I remember actually I was walking home from my daily. I think I was walking from the gym actually. I don't think it was a
Yeah.
walk. Well, I wasn't. It wasn't a daily walk. It was from the gym. I remember I was just walking up onto our street, and I thought to myself, I was like, oh, I've hit this target that I've held up as this. I am a successful man in business when I hit this. And yeah, I came to the realization that all the problems that I had the day before, the month before, the year before, well, I still had those problems, and I wasn't any happier. So again, it's real stuff like that. It's like you stop comparing yourself to other people. You just do your own thing. So no, I don't struggle with comparison in business anymore. But as with training, I certainly did in the beginning, and I think most guys do. I also think that it's one of the reasons why a lot of people quit training, business, any endeavor. Warhammer painting. I struggled with comparison with that when I first started. I remember looking at my models thinking, oh, these are rubbish compared to what I see on, well, it was web forums back then. Instagram wasn't a thing. It was all message boards. And I used to get really upset, and I'd do these painting logs with my Warhammer and think, you know, I'd only get maybe, a couple of comments because, to be fair, the models look crap. Models look crap, so no one was interested in commenting on my logs. And I saw these other people with these incredible models, and they were really popular on the message boards. And I wish I was like that. And yeah, and then over the years, I've just kind of gotten happier with what I'm able to do. Just kept on chipping away, learning new techniques. But I do know other people do quit because they can't deal with that. They can't deal with the fact that other people are better than them. And and they end up in this misery spiral, just feeling, they look at their things, they just think it's not worth it, and it'll, looking at others, it becomes so unattainable. You're just, oh, what's the point, So yeah, that's my take on comparison.
And I mean, comparison's obviously an essential part of a buying decision. Do I buy this thing or that thing? Do I buy anything or nothing?
Well, it's a specific point in the marketing funnel, consideration phase, it's formally called, the evaluation or consideration.
That's why I wanted to bring up this idea of compelling copy, that I think is quite attractive in the fitness industry, trying to compel people to make a decision and they decide to use you or them or whoever.
Well, firstly, we need to tell the audience what copy is. So copy is basically the written word to sell things.
Mm-hmm.
So sales page or advert that you might see in the paper, that's copy. The words is the copy. And yeah, in fitness, as with all types of coaching and other similar offers, the words on the page or the words that are read out by someone reading a script, yeah, they are an integral part of how the thing is sold, right? And in fitness specifically, outrageous promises of the order of the day. You gotta look back in time, 30, 40, 50 years to find all the origins of this. These big offers with crazy promises and, these special weight loss drugs and solutions and all this sort of stuff. And it does sell because ultimately you're offering people what they want. The problem I have with it is that it leans too heavily on emotions, I think. Don't get me wrong, people listening to this have almost certainly read some of my stuff, and I'm not happy to poke you in the eye. I'm happy to poke you in the eye with what I write. I have no issues with doing that, which is to get an emotional reaction. Um, the difference is that certain things I won't do in the way that I sell are I won't put huge time pressures on people. Yes, I put deadlines on pre-orders for discounts, and yes, I tell people I'm going to put my prices up. But that's more to give a gentle nudge to people who are already strongly considering working with me or purchasing something I've got for offer to just get them over the line, because deadlines drive decisions, don't they? We've all known the person at school, right, who, when it came to doing their homework, would do their homework the night before or indeed the morning it was due in. Yes, deadlines drive actions for those people. I was never like that. I would do my homework the night that I've got it. I make buying decisions that way as well. If I see something I want and I need and I know that I can certainly afford it, then I'll just buy it. I'm not motivated by these sorts of things, but I know that others are. And the reason I include it, some light fear of missing out, for want of a better term, is just to help facilitate a decision for people who need that sort of thing to actually do something, to take action to better their circumstances. Ultimately, is what we're doing. I also write very lengthy and detailed sales pages. I include as much information as I can about my offers. Others won't do that for various reasons. My sales material is quite feature heavy because you want to know what you're buying, don't you? Because it's all about making a properly informed decision. Because I don't want people with buyer's remorse ultimately, and my aim with the business is to build a long-term relationship with my customers and clients. I don't want to offer a flash in the pan 6, 12, 18-week transformation program, which I'm not saying these types of offers don't work, because they absolutely do. You only need to look at the before and afters that these PTs use. They do work for quite a significant percentage of the people that get put through them. The problem that arises is that the client doesn't usually maintain the results very long after the program is finished. Whereas what we do is based on education, long-term commitment, and patience, isn't it? So my advertising material, the way that I sell reflects that. We qualify really hard at the front end. How many people do you see with an email list who have a 400 word, that might be a slight exaggeration, but certainly a couple of hundred at least words of information about what you're going to get from the emails before you sign up? How many people do that? Not many people do that, right? And maybe I'm crazy, but I believe that I'm acting with integrity, and that's very important to me. I often say my integrity is not for sale, and I would rather not have a business and go and shift boxes in Tesco warehouse. Not that there's anything wrong with shifting boxes in Tesco warehouse. There's one not far away from where I live, which is why I use that specific phrase. But I'd rather that than sell something to someone that they don't want, need, or can't afford.
Can we dig into this idea of compelling a little
Compelling.
bit further about if you believe you can and therefore do try and compel somebody into buying your service, why that can be problematic for the purchaser?
Yeah, well, I've never liked the word to compel. Let's look at the word to compel. It's a verb, and it means to get someone to do something under threat of force, basically. That's one of the definitions of to compel. Therefore, I don't think that compelling anyone has any place in any sales process, but with integrity. Yeah, because it's under threat of force, and we don't use threats. We inform people and allow them to make appropriate decisions for them, which could be a no. Because the moment you start compelling people, threat of force, then it ceases to become a truly informed decision, doesn't it? Because the consequences are laid on so thick that...
Yeah, we're not talking about buy my services or I'm going to do something bad to you. It's about overly exaggerating the negative consequences of not taking action.
Well, yeah, that's true. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I'm not afraid to talk negative consequences about inaction, because I do. At the end of the day, like, if you don't train, I wrote an email about it today, didn't I? If you don't train, then there's a fairly high chance that at some point you're going to fall over when you're an old person, and you're going to be stuck on the floor, covered in your own urine and excrement, waiting upwards of a day for an ambulance to arrive to pick you up. This is reality. This is evidence based. Falls are the number one cause of death cause of death by injury in the over 65s, and they're the number one cause of people going into nursing and care homes. So and ultimately, aging is a process of slow grinding decline, isn't it? So I believe there's a moral imperative to do everything to arrest that decline. I'm not afraid to tell people that if you don't, this is what might happen. But then on the other hand, I also say, as I wrote in that email that I'm referencing, there's no guarantees that training hard in the best possible way will actually stop that from happening to you, because life happens.
And would you say your very descriptive and information heavy
balanced
explanation brings people back down to earth?
It's balanced. That's why I don't make guarantees. So there's no guarantees it's going to work. There's no guarantees this will work. If you do, there's no, as I say, there's no guarantee that, if you start going for a walk run, as we often talk about every morning, without fail, 6 days a week or whatever, that you won't die of a heart attack at 45. Likewise, there's a chance that you can eat, drink, and be merry and do no exercise whatsoever and die at the age of 103 in your sleep while dreaming about a few hotties giving you some personal attention. That's possible as well. But I think it's all about mitigating risk and also doing the right thing by yourself, by your family. So we're talking on the moral level here. But I'm always very careful to balance these things. So, as I say, so that my readers can make an informed decision about whether I want to buy from me. Because, like I said, I would struggle to sleep at night if I knew that I was selling things to people that they didn't need, didn't want, or couldn't afford. And the one way to make that happen is to try and compel them with my bloody written material.
So now that we've covered compelling and comparison, should we have a level-headed conversation about why people should and or shouldn't work with you?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Tell us some reasons why people should or shouldn't work with you.
Well, if you are of a left-wing persuasion, if you are a soy boy, if you are a male feminist, if you are fragile, if you believe that your situation is somebody else's fault, either in whole or even essentially in significant part, then I'm absolutely not the sort of person that you should work with, because I don't believe in anything that you believe. So you're obviously going to disagree with what I have to say. You're probably not going to like me very much. So if you got my newsletter and it would come through your door, there'd be things in it that you would find offensive, and then you wouldn't actually, you would then dismiss what I had to say, and you wouldn't do it, so you'd be wasting your money. So don't work with me. It's stress and strife we could honestly both do without. The other reason to not work with me is if you're not serious about committing to a long-term solution. In fact, I actually recommend that you go away and you perhaps work with either a PT at your local gym or one of these online coaches with a 12 or 18 or 24-week transformation program first. Actually go and work with one of them first, so that you can actually see what it's like to get the results and then lose them again because they've not properly equipped you to maintain things for the long term. That might actually be better that you do that first, because then you actually understand what I'm saying. So yeah, that'd be a good reason not to work with me. You have to be committed. And the reason I say that too is that if you do join the Phil Timon letter, which you have to do, by the way, to work with me one to one, I think it's, did we say 3 months, didn't we? You have to be subscribed for 3 months before I'll even consider an application for private coaching. Which might also put you off as well. So don't work with me if that puts you off. But don't join the newsletter for a couple of months and then go, I can't be bothered now, and quit and unsubscribe from and cancel. You can cancel. Cancelling is cheap, and well, cancelling is, well, it's free, obviously. No, it's quick, easy, and convenient. But I won't ever let you back, ever. There are no exceptions to this. You will be blacklisted. I will put also blacklist you from being able to purchase my other information products as well.
Why is that the case?
Because I don't want people who want to hop to the next new and exciting thing.
Yeah.
I don't want that, because you're not ready, because you're not going to get the results. Likewise, if you're not already at least somewhat regularly training and serious about it, it's not for you. You need to do all that yourself. It's all very self-directed. Because I can't fix it. I was having a conversation actually over DM on LinkedIn with a guy yesterday, and one of the things he said was he was curious about how working with me would work, because I wouldn't be there to stand over him and make him do things. And I just said to him, I was like, well, that's very much a you problem, and it's something that no PT with integrity can solve. Yeah, if you need someone to stand over you to make you do exercise, then you're not going to succeed in the long term. So again, what will happen is you will subscribe to the newsletter. You'll be like, oh, this isn't working. Oh, it's not working. So because you're not doing it, and you just cancel, and then that's it. Door shut. As I say, I'd much rather you took the time to consume my free material, consume other people's material. Or pay for some books that I've recommended or that you just want to read. Try get yourself into a regular routine, train for a few months, get some results, and then come to me, because you are more likely to stay for the long term, which is good, which is what you need. It's what I need.
Yeah. So why should people work with you?
Oh, why should they work with me? Well, just reverse everything I've just said. You should ultimately, the people who work with me are rich of mind, willing to take instructions, willing to follow instructions, patient, understand that this is a marathon and not a sprint, happy to dig in and do difficult and uncomfortable things, understand that fitness, or at least prepared to be brought round to understanding that fitness is not something that you do for recreation. It's not fun and exciting. It's like a second job. This is deadly. It's deadly serious stuff. So if you come into it thinking it's frivolous, you're not going to do well in the long term, because as soon as it stops being fun, you're going to look for something else to feed that dopamine loop of yours. So those are the people I'm looking to work with. Also, people just on a practical note, my stuff's very expensive, and I'm not ashamed to say it. So you need to have a secure job or a stable business so that you can actually confidently invest the monthly fee for the Phil Timon letter. Have the money spare if you want to buy one of my books. I think the cheapest book that we sell is 120 quid, isn't it? So yeah, that's a practical consideration too. And I know it's a bit taboo to talk about these things in this day and age, but the reality is, we need to run the business in a certain way, and our material is of a quality that that's reflected in the price. There's a copy talked about copywriting earlier. There's a copywriter called Gary Halbert, arguably the greatest copywriter that's ever lived. He's mentioned in one of his newsletters that his prices were also very high at the time. I think the letter I'm referencing, I think he talked about it being $12,500 for him to write one ad, and this is back in like the 80s. So adjust that for inflation, and plus a commission on all the sales too. So just to give some context here, but he says that he wouldn't charge a penny more than it's worth or a penny less than it's worth. And we take the same approach, don't we, Jess?
Yeah. There's also an element of having skin in the game, isn't there?
Oh yeah, skin in the game. Yeah, absolutely. Like you can, there's people who offer all their stuff for free on YouTube or whatever, dime a dozen, aren't they? I'm very wary of listening to those people because, yeah, if your information's good, why are you not charging for it? I remember there were two names actually. A guy called Paul Carter and a guy called Jamie Lewis. Paul Carter, I think he coaches women now. He's got an Instagram. He's doing very well, which is really nice to see. I remember I was reading his blog years back in like 2010. I don't think he posts on his blog anymore. And then there's Jamie Lewis, who authored another blog. I've no idea what he's doing now. And I've not read any of his stuff for a while or even looked him up. I might Google him after this, actually. Um, but both of those guys, going back 10 years, yes, they gave away lots of amazing stuff for free, but they also had like information products, ebooks to sell. I think I bought one of Paul Carter's for like $12. So not a lot. But the reason I listened to those people was precisely because they had the confidence to actually charge money for their best information. You know, I'm very skeptical of these YouTubers who won't even put together like a $5 ebook or whatever, especially considering it's so easy now. It was easy back then, but I mean, for goodness sake, Jess, it's the software available now it's so easy to put one of these things together. But it says to me that they're not entirely confident in what they have to say, because when you charge money for something, all of a sudden you've created a contract between you and your buyer, which means you as the professional have a certain suite of obligations, one of which being the quality of your material. you know it says a lot for someone who's a bit too chicken to do that, doesn't it? Whereas there are loads of people out there that are actually happy to stand up and say, yeah, I'm going to charge you for this. So yeah, that actually leads me on to something that's quite important about curating your mental environment. I was criticized recently by someone for dismissing one of these people who apparently has nothing to sell me because he does it all for free on YouTube. I dismissed him out of hand because he doesn't sell anything. Apparently, that's a bad thing. But what you have to understand is that your mind is a palace, castle, or fortress, to quote Marcus Aurelius, Mind Fortress. And fortresses have gates, don't they, and guards. So yeah, you don't want to leave the gate open and the drawbridge down. Just let anyone walk into your brain. You need to curate your mental environment and actually only let people in who are high quality. So why would I? My counter argument to this guy was, why would I go on YouTube and watch all this guy's free stuff about a certain topic when I have four names that I can rattle off the top of my head who are in the same area of expertise, who sell books that I could just go and buy from them directly and have delivered to my house in 2 to 3 days. Why these who are obviously confident, who are obviously competent, and who have built whole businesses on strength and strength training, muscle building, whatever. For example, like, why would I listen to a YouTuber who talks about strength training when I could just go and buy Mark Rippetoe's books? Mark Rippetoe, who has built his entire business, who's built his whole business, has been in strength training. He's written multiple books. He has a gym. It's his life, and he stands by what he does. The material he puts into the world has to be the best material. Otherwise, Mark Rippetoe doesn't get to eat. Matey Jim with his YouTube channel, he's got another job. So what does it matter if his material's not great? I'm not saying that these people don't have integrity and don't do their best, but I'm saying the stakes are different, and that unless you've been in business, you don't understand how it hones the mind. Likewise, if I didn't want to listen to Mark Rippetoe, I could go to Jim Wendler. If I was interested in bodybuilding, I could go and look up some of Vince Gironda, whose surname I'm probably mispronouncing. I could look up his stuff. Again, someone who's written extensively, and he's dead now, but he had a gym. It was his life, and he was mentally honed in the way that I've just described.
He also tells us about the positive impacts on the buyer of dishing out their hard-earned cash for information or
Oh yeah, absolutely. Look at it this way. Let's pretend that you see one of these ads on Facebook or YouTube, and it's offering you a free PDF with a workout program on it. There was one that I downloaded like 15 years ago now, 14, 15 years ago, that promised me £20 on my bench press in 8 weeks. Right? It was free. I downloaded it. Did I even read it? No, I didn't read it because I didn't pay for it, let alone actually put it into practice. Actually, I lie. I did actually read it and I did try and put it into practice, but I wasn't consistent. I didn't finish the program, hence I never got the £20 on my bench press that was promised. if I paid £100 for that, bearing in mind I was like an 18-year-old at the time, who was working on minimum wage, and I'd scrape together the money for that, do you think I'd pay attention to it? It's the same reason why it was one of the reasons why we charge as much as we do. My £120 book. Are you going to do what's in the book if you buy the book? Of course you are. And I want you to, because your success is my success. I'm not in the business of selling 10 books for £12 to people who I know are never going to, probably, well, let's say 90% of the people aren't going to read it or put it into action because it's only 12 quid, or one book to someone for £120 and change their life.
Yeah.
One of those two things that's harder to do, and it's the selling the very expensive book. But I'd rather sell the very expensive book and get the person to get the great results, because that's actually what matters to me.
On that bombshell.
25 minutes. Yes, we're done. Lovely.